Hey guys, hope y'all are doing well today. Today we're going to be discussing a couple of free or cheap things you can do to address any cycling issues you may be having with your firearm. In particular, we're going to be discussing the .22 long rifle. The .22 long rifle is a very popular round. There's a lot of different makes and models that are chambered in .22 long rifle. .22 long rifle is also just a lot of different manufacturers that produce the round itself. So you're going to have a lot of different handguns and long guns chambered in a .22 long rifle, and you're going to have a lot of different options out there to choose for ammunition to feed your .22 long rifle firearm. Alright, so before the big gun buy of 2020, we'll call it, we maybe saw once a month someone come into our shop that either had their firearm or didn't have their firearm with them. But they would be explaining to us that they're having some cycling issues about, the firearm shoots, but on the second round it's not kicking out the spent casing, or every few rounds it's not properly seating the round into battery correctly, so it's not firing correctly. So a lot of different failure to fire, failure to eject issues get explained to us in many different ways. And just because you're having an issue doesn't necessarily mean there's a problem. So I wanted you to kind of have a few things to go over and look at before you take your firearm into a gunsmith and have it booked in to be repaired. If it's just one person, then one person a month, and it's no problem. We talk to them and kind of explain the differences with the .22 long rifle rounds and the firearm that they have. But we're starting to see a little spike of 1 or 2 people a week now. So we think if there's that many people around here having that problem, that there's even more people. Because this is a small town, it's not a huge town or anything. So if we're seeing this type of issue with people in this area, there's probably a lot more people around the U.S. and around the world that are having these issues, right? So hopefully this is going to help some of you out there. And I don't want anybody that watches this channel to get ripped off by taking it to a gunsmith and them fixing the problem when there's not a problem. Not saying that I think that gunsmiths are like that. The ones I've got to know and talk to are basically like us. We enjoy talking about firearms, and we want to just talk to people about them. No problem. We'll discuss things with you. It's fun. But I can't make that promise with everybody, and I'm not going to do that. So I don't want any of you guys getting ripped off. So let's get started. First thing you want to do is check to see if your weapon is filthy. So go ahead and make sure it's unloaded. Safety first always. You don't want any live ammunition around if you're cleaning your firearm. So go ahead, lock that bolt back, and start looking in there after you've made sure it's empty. Is it dirty? Is it filthy nasty? Is it dried out in there? All this stuff can cause cycling issues. You got to keep in mind that when you're firing rounds off, you're burning that gunpowder, and that's going to leave a lot of carbon residue in there. And it's no problem if you clean your firearm properly. No problem. It'll come off. If you let it go, it'll build up and it'll harden, and the next time it'll more be added. It'll just get thicker and thicker until it does become an issue. So go ahead and clean your firearm. With that being said, let's talk about proper lubrication. I recommend a synthetic gun oil. Do what you want to do. There's a lot of different options out there, but you want to have some type of lubricant on your firearm. You want a thin layer of lubricant on your firearm. That way everything's functioning properly. There's not a whole lot of rubbing and stuff getting hot and wore out. With that being said, dry can be an issue. Also, being too wet can be an issue. There's a lot of firearms out there that don't like to fire when they're wet. A good way to check to see if they're wet, when I'm referring to that, is if you, say, have a mag-fed .22 long rifle. You drop the mag out and there's like a stream of gun oil coming out. That's too much gun oil. You don't need that much gun oil. Go ahead and cut back on that. You just need a thin layer. Thin layer, everything will work fine. Too much gun oil, it's going to pool. It's going to attract dirt and grime. It's going to wear out your internal parts quicker. You don't want that. And it could also cause issues with rounds going into battery properly. Seen that as well. So that's the first thing you want to check out. The next thing is what I think is the main problem, and that's there's just a lot of different 22 long rifle rounds. With different makes and models, there's different builds, and with different manufacturers, there's a lot of different rounds, how they produce them, powders used. But we're not getting into all that. This is going to be a basic. We're not doing a 2-hour video just discussing rounds of 22. And man, I could do that because I love ammunition. To me, ammunition is just as cool as the firearms themselves, because you just got to keep in mind that these are basically platforms. Oh, here we go. This is actually an M&P 1522. So this is a 22 long rifle. So this is kind of fits in. All right, you just got to remember, this is just a platform to get the little quiet pills downrange. That's what firearms are. They're cool, but they are platforms to get the quiet pills downrange, right? So the rounds are just as important as the firearm. Got to make sure they pair properly, like be a sommelier of ammunition. That's kind of what I wanted to be when I was young and growing up. I wanted to get the right round, the perfect round for that particular platform so that it works perfect. It's fun to do, but anyway, we're just doing basics. I'm off the point. All right. There are basically 3 main categories of 22 long rifle. Velocities is really what we're going to focus on here. Remember, this is just basics. You got high velocity, standard velocity, and subsonic velocity, and then a lot of different makes in there. And that's what I think the main issue is with so many gun buyers. You're seeing in some areas people are having trouble getting firearms in. You're seeing ammunition shortages in certain areas. So I think a lot of people who aren't as familiar with firearms as they will be, to all the new gun owners, welcome. It's a fun world. It's a big world. You got a lot to learn. There's a lot of misinformation out there that you're just going to have to learn the truth now. And hopefully this is going to be a little basics to help you get there. And that's all 22 long rifles are not the same. And with ammo shortages, I think people are going in and seeing 22 long rifle, and yes, that will work absolutely, but it can cause issues with your cycling issue in your firearm. Standard velocity is typically, sometimes it is labeled standard, sometimes it's just labeled 22 long rifle. So if you see that, it's a standard velocity. High velocity is labeled, subsonics labeled, for the majority that I can recall right now anyway. But let's not just talk about that. Let's go get some downrange. That's another reason why I'm making this video as well, because I do understand that not everybody can get out to the range and shoot as often as they would like to shoot. They can't maybe go out and spend all day trying out different ammunitions, different types of loads with different platforms. They might want to, but they just don't have the time to do that. If you live in the city, you might have to go to a range, where anytime I want, I can just go shoot. So, I recognize there's differences in where you live that can maybe help also cause issues too with you not being able to experiment as much. So, let's get out of here. I'm going to go grab my 1022. I'm going to use my 1022 because I think it's a very popular platform. The Ruger 1022 is an extremely common firearm in the U.S. You probably have one sitting in your closet, or you might be thinking about picking one up. They're very fun. I love my 1022s. The one firearm that I have that I don't shoot with ear protection, and I do enjoy that. Long gun, 22 long rifle, don't need ear protection. I just love to go out and shoot for hours when I'm bored, just with my 22 blinking away. It's fun. But let's get out of here. I'm going to go grab my 1022, and I'm going to grab a couple different types of ammunition. I'm not going to grab CCI, because CCI is pretty standard stuff. Everybody likes CCI. It's very popular. I want to get some different brands because, with the ammo shortage, you might not find CCI out there. You might see other stuff to get. So I'm going to grab different velocity standard, high velocity subsonic stuff, and then we'll get out there and shoot. But come on, let's go shoot. But let's go ahead and start here. These are high velocity down here, but over here on my right, we'll start with SK. SK is good ammo, very consistent ammo, and this is standard velocity stuff. The magazine is like a 40 grain bullet, going about 1070. The long range match stuff here, 40 grain bullet, going about 1100. Then down here we got some Remington 22 golden bullets. I actually am a big fan of these kind of bullets. Many of you might be familiar with the bucket-o bullets. They're well known in our community. Inexpensive rounds to get out and just go shooting cheap. Now, these rounds right here are 36 grain bullets going 1280 velocity, I believe. Yeah, 1280. So going 1280 feet per second. These down here are 40 grain bullets. Let's look at the velocity. High velocity doesn't show it. It's probably going to be around, if these are 1280, this will probably be like 1250, 1255, somewhere in there. Heavier bullet, it's going to be a little slower. Alright, and then down here, we got some Aguila 22 subsonic ammo. This is going about 420. Alright, so we're going to load up this ammunition. This is what I'm thinking we're going to do. We're going to load up the SK long range stuff, and then we'll cap it. And then we'll take the magazine, SK magazine stuff, and we'll throw it in the other end. Oh, for those of you who aren't familiar with what these are, if you have a 1022, you probably have some of these. If you don't, you still might know what they are because they're so popular. It's the BX25. Ruger makes these. They're absolutely great. The one I'm going to use today is just a mold with two of them together, so it's like a 50 round mag, so I like that. Alright, and next we are going to go with this Remington golden bullet. We will load up some from this box here. This is the box in a bag. We'll cap it, and then we'll load up the bucket-o bullet stuff, and we'll start off with it. And then we'll basically use the 10 round mag. This comes with the 1022 for the Aguila stuff. You probably know why, but we'll definitely go over it. Alright, so let me get this cleared out of the way, and we'll get set up and we'll get started on that. Alright, so I just wanted to show you this real quick. One of the reasons why I do like this kind of ammo is for storage reasons. SK is good ammo, good consistent ammo. If you're looking for consistency, it's a good company to check out. But here you go, you see sealed tight, very nice. So let's pop it. And all the wonderful treasures inside. So there you go. And it's feels slick in there. All these are slick. So yeah, that's why I like this ammo, for storage reasons. If you're looking for some ammo to store for long periods of time, check out this little magazine stuff. So first up, we're going to go with the SK magazine ammo. This is a 40 grain bullet with a velocity of 1070 feet per second. I'll just shout out numbers, but I'm always talking feet per second when it comes to how fast they're going. All right. Alright, so got a failure to eject. One. Alright, another failure to eject. It's two. Alright, another failure to eject. That's three. Alright, failure to eject. Four. Failure to feed. Five. Oh, failure to eject. Six. Failure to eject. 7. All right. Failure to eject, 8. Failure to eject, 9. Failure to eject, yep, 10. Failure to eject, 11. And we're empty now. All right, so 40 grain bullet, standard velocity, going 1070. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 out of 30, out of 25, sorry. So 11 out of 25. Not good. All right, so next up, we are going to go with the SK long range match stuff. This is also standard velocity. This is also a 40 grain bullet, and it's going a little bit faster. It's got about 1100 velocity on this round. So let's see if it performs better than that. One. All right. So there you go. That performed a lot better. We had only one misfire on that one. So going a little bit faster, beat that. All right. Alright, so next up we're going to be shooting some Remington stuff, the Bucket O bullets. 22 golden bullet, 1400 rounds in here. Let's see, show you. So we have 1280, 36 grain bullet. All right. Here. Excellent. We are empty. All right. Next up, we are going to be shooting same thing. 22 golden bullet. 550 rounds in here. This is also a 36 grain bullet. 1280 feet per second. Excellent. All right. All right, so next up we're going to go with this Aguila 22 long rifle here. So it's a 20 grain bullet, long rifle, subsonic velocity, so we're shooting at 420. Let's check it out. Now for this one we're just going to go with the 10 round mag. You probably know why. Yeah. All right, so all right. Wow, failure to feed on that. Look at that. That is, ooh, it's jammed up in there bad. Let's get that out. Look at that. Look at that. So yeah, that's not what you want. But I only loaded 3 rounds because I knew that it just wasn't going to cycle at all very well. But look at that. That's a nice little All right. Okay, so the SK magazine stuff did not cycle well at all in that 1022. Well, we had like 11 failures with that. Good consistent ammo, just not good at consistently cycling the 1022. The long range match stuff cycled much better. We only had one issue there. So 40 grain bullet going about 1070, 40 grain bullet going 1100. So 1070 did not perform well. Faster velocity performed much better. Alright, then we had the Remington bucket o' bullets, and we had this little box here. So they both performed well, didn't have any issues with those. So this leads us to another question we get all the time. Well, why are the prices of ammunition different? Well, let's take a look at this. Alright, let's grab one of these out. Ugh, okay, let me see if you can see this. Alright, so see how that bullet's wiggling? Let's see what else we can do here. It's just turning around in there. Yeah, that's a terrible crimp. That's just not very well made ammo. Now let's go into this box here. Pull that around in here. Okay, so it's not moving. It is not moving. So much better crimp on this, much better made. So that's why you see a price difference between the bucket o' bullets and something like this. They are both Remington 22 golden bullets. However, they are not the same. Same bullet weight, same velocity, but they're just not made the same. This has a very poor crimp. Very poor crimp on these, where this is bullet is crimped in there much better. Alright, and then we had the Aguila 22 long rifle subsonic going at 420 feet per second. And yeah, many of you I know knew that this wasn't going to perform well. I also knew it wasn't going to perform well. That's why we put 3 rounds in it instead of just filling up the magazine, because why? Alright, so there is nothing wrong with this 1022. There is nothing wrong with these rounds. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. It's just that we can see now that standard velocity stuff, you want to be closer to 1100 or higher, or it's just not going to cycle. A good thing to look at is if you look at all these things, you see the high velocity. Even if I come over here, high velocity, the subsonic, you see it's clearly stated there, subsonic ammunition. So basically, a good rule to take is if you see high velocity, you know it's high velocity. If you see subsonic, you know it's subsonic. If you don't see anything anywhere on here, then it's standard. It is standard velocity stuff. SK doesn't post their information on their boxes, but you can go to their website, skmmo.com, and find all the information there that you need or possibly want. Alright. Alright, so we are back from the range. It's always more fun to go shooting than it is just talking about it, right? Alright, so let's wrap this up. There are a few things you want to try before you take your firearm to a gunsmith for repairs. First, make sure it's clean and properly lubed. Don't over-lube it. Second, move up in velocity. If you're shooting a standard velocity and you're having cycling issues, go ahead and move up to a high velocity round. I would recommend a 36 or a 40 grain bullet traveling at 1250 feet per second or more. Another thing that we didn't talk about but I thought about on the ride here is actually the shape of the bullet itself. It's typically an issue we see 9mm, 45 ACP, all different types of rounds with semi-automatic actions. Sometimes, depending on the shape of the actual bullet, it does not want to feed well into some firearms. Basically, I would check it if I was going to. I have an FNX 45 and I carry Hornady Critical Defense hollow point rounds. If I tested these out. Let's say I wanted to try another one that I've never tried before, whatever. I would cycle basically each magazine. I'd fill it up and cycle it 3 times just to make sure I had no feeding issues. Let's say I had an issue when I was originally testing this with the Hornady Critical Defense. Let's say I had, in every magazine, I had 1 or 2 that didn't feed. Well, that's way too much for a defensive round. You don't want any issues when it comes to feeding. One issue could be very bad for you in a bad situation, okay? So just make sure everything feeds well. If that didn't work, I would go with basically probably Spear Gold Dot. I love that defensive round too. I know a lot of law enforcement officers use that round. It's a great round. But there's a lot of good self-defense rounds out there. There's a lot of not so good rounds out there to use as well. So just make sure you cycle the round through your firearm just to make sure that it's happy with the round that you've chosen. Alright, bullet shape does matter. Alright, but we're going to go ahead and end it there because we're basically just scratching the surface of ammunition, really, not trying to get too in depth with ammunition because you can really go on and on and on. I didn't want to do like a 3-hour long video because no. But when it comes to bullet shape, bullet weight, the type of metal used for the casing, the type of primer used, there's different powders. It's just so much to discuss when it comes to that we're just not going to get into that. This is basically just to get you started looking for some cheap free fixes to begin with for cycling issues. Hopefully this helps you. But if there's more information you want to add to the conversation, please do. Drop down, leave it in the comments section. Anything you wish to add, we'd be happy to see it. Always happy to hear from you and read your comments. But yeah, let's just go ahead and end it there. If there's anything else that we can help you with here at Maverick Gun Works, by all means, please stop in, talk to us. We're always happy to see you, or leave us a comment. Maybe we can help you there as well. If we get a lot of different comments, then that is something that we're going to make a video on to try to answer those questions for our subscribers. We want to make content that you want to see, that you want to watch. So any suggestions really helps us grow the channel. So hope you have a great day, and thanks again for watching. Bye.